Meld was at some point one of the largest projects on Cardano, one of the projects that was able to raise some of the biggest amount of money we've seen raised on Cardano and a huge community. But now it's all over. The project is over, the token has dumped. And in this video, we'll try to analyze what happened. We'll try to analyze the journey of Meld and how we got to this point and what in fact is left for the community and for Cardano after all of this. So as you can see here, Meld has officially altered the development of their protocol, and they will be discontinuing their crypto support and all their blockchain. They have their own blockchain as a Avalanche subnet on 1st of January. Okay, so it's a sad news for the space, sad news for Cardano and for Avalanche and for Meld community overall, because a lot of people were holding Meld and are suffering from this situation. But before diving deeper, before showing you everything that is going on, let's give a little bit of context on what is Meld. What Meld was trying to do is to revolutionize traditional financing by leveraging crypto. They actually wanted people to become their own bank, as they said, and just make it more accessible to you to bridge between crypto and the traditional finance. You could actually leverage your crypto assets to take out loans in the real world in case you need them, and you'd have more control over your money. Leveraging the crypto self-custody and non-custodial wallet technology to hold your money. Sounded like a very captivating vision for crypto holders and for the general adoption of cryptocurrency as a financial technology, I would say. And with this vision, I think Meld was able to gather a very large community and a lot of supporters. They've actually done an NFT sale they were able to sell out to fund initial development. They were actually able to also do an ISPO, where as far as I understand, and as you can see here, they got around 1.1 billion ADA from that ISPO, that 99% ISPO. It was the first ISPO launched on Cardano at a point where the staking rewards were very considerable, and Meld launched a 99% pool, taking all the ADA you stand to gain in return from your ADA rewards, and it was very, it was a huge success for Meld. It allowed them to get a huge amount of money, I would say. After that, Meld was also able to finance themselves even more with selling their token, which according here to Cerberus, they were able to get around $20 million in USDC just from that sale. That's really a lot of money, I would say. Plus any additional money Meld has been able to gather from any investors they have had throughout all this process.
So the Meld deposit wallet, right? The wallet where all the funds that was the initial investment for Meld went to. We can see here on screen here is this wallet here. This is public. This is I got this off. I don't know if I can find the website again. Anyways, I just found the original wallet itself. And all these green wallets over here are the initial investors, right? So each one of these wallets have their own transaction hash codes again, and all their different sums of money they sent there. The sum of this money just for two stablecoins, USDC, USDT, was $19 million around the range, right? So the initial investment of Meld was massive.
Just is that in addition to the stake pool, or is that completely set free from the stake pool on the Ethereum side?
This is on the Ethereum network entirely. From what I understand, and from what I've gathered from Onchain currently, I couldn't imagine what you could do with 20 million. Anyways, yeah, with 20 million.
Plus a 1 billion ISPO, right? That comes on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a huge amount of funding, and the reality is that even though they were able to gather all these funds, they actually close operations really soon. But of course, during this process, Meld has said, it was not a smooth journey, I would say, because Meld started on Cardano. They were building on Cardano. At some point, they identified a problem in the Cardano blockchain for their use case, which Josh from Learn Cardano will tell you more about.
About 2 years ago, Meld discovered a vulnerability in the Cardano blockchain that specifically related to lending and borrowing protocols and other kinds of DeFi protocols sometimes. As many of you already know and have experienced, whenever the Cardano blockchain gets congested, transactions get queued and they just take a little bit longer to process. What Meld had discovered was that in the case of a massive sell-off event, like what we typically see at the end of a bull market or beginning of a bear market, same thing, I guess, what happens is it creates the possibility for bad debt that is enforced on-chain. You've got to remember that lending and borrowing protocols aren't like DEXs, where the price is determined by the actual trading activity that's happening in real time. On lending and borrowing protocols and other kinds of DeFi protocols, the price needs to be injected into it using an oracle, and that determines the truth of what is acted upon on-chain. So what can happen is the price might continue dropping on a protocol while a transaction had been submitted for a liquidation, and it might have been initiated at a time when the price was different, which means that the assets coming back to the lender in the case of a liquidation is not the actual amount of assets that they should be owed if the transaction was submitted in real time.
And that made them move from Cardano to Avalanche, to the Avalanche subnet, create their own blockchain and migrate all their tokens and assets from Cardano to Avalanche, and forcing the community to do that migration. And that was a really bad period for Meld. It was a period where many people in the Cardano community were upset. They felt a little bit defrauded because at the end of the day, they invested in this project to build on Cardano, and all they did was take this liquidity to another chain. They didn't actually deliver anything on Cardano itself. That move definitely led to losing a lot of supporters, but the project kept building and kept moving. With their neobank, they were able to launch the Testnet on Avalanche, an incentivized program for people to participate. And they had plans to do fiat integrations with cards and everything else. Then we got to the point where we had this announcement from Ken Olling and mentioning how they were closing down the Meld crypto ecosystem, and it was a big shock, and especially it's not positive for the community or for any project to do such an important announcement on Telegram in a message by the founder later on. And as you've seen, there was official messages in the official channels, but this message was really negative, and it was already too late. We already had a huge price decrease, as we will show you. But basically what happened is Meld had two investors lined up to bring aggressive marketing, to bring more users into their app, but investors pulled their commitment because they saw the Meld token going down after announcing the debit card, which they were expecting to see some pumps, and also because of the failed launch of the neobank and their lending and borrowing protocol, because they had around 100k users thanks to the program they did, incentivizing people to participate and giving an airdrop for the Meld neobank. However, they had around only 289 wallets actually using the protocol and supplying lending and borrowing to the protocol. Some being the owner of the project, also two whales, and the community represented 80% of the total value locked. So basically, there was very, very little usage of Meld in practice, which scared investors, especially considering as well the price action. And at the end of the day, that started a sell that really just ruined everything. And just that is now taking Meld and the team to close down the project. The project will continue until the end of January. And you can see here the sell-off. It was something that was pretty crazy, pretty crazy how much Meld is selling off. 300 million in value completely wiped off. It's really scary, I would say. But definitely there are some fishy things going on in Meld, and some fishy things with all this sell-off. Because as you can see here, the founder itself, Ken, was asking people to add more liquidity to the DEX so that they could stop the sell-off. But the reality is this was 2 days before the big sell-off. And as far as we understand, the team actually sold on top of this liquidity. So this is like extremely negative. They were asking people to put money in, and then at the end of the day, they were selling on top of the people that were actually providing liquidity and helping Meld going on, and they were closing down the protocol 2 days later. It's pretty crazy, I would say. On top of some sketchy activities, and we'll dive deeper into some of these activities later, we also had here a situation where Meld was actually overspending. And this comes from, for example, this post from Raul from Fluid Tokens, where he showed the proposal he got to become the CTO of Meld, where he was actually getting 300,000 in salary, plus equity and tokens and all of that. So, because this is not the normal costs for a startup. If you're taking a startup, if you're unsure of your success, you try to be as lean as possible. That is what we try to do with GenWealth. We're actually not paying ourselves as CTO or CEO. We actually use the money to pay people, to pay the people that are doing the work. And, we are doing the work as well, but to pay the people who are not founders, because we hope in the future we can make this project really succeed. And if we do, we'll be rewarded. If we don't, well, we should have done it better, I guess. And that should be the kind of approach you go if you want to make your company sustainable. You don't want to incur in too many costs and just see your runway go to zero and be forced to close down because you cannot pay or acquire the things you need to keep running your company. However, more shady business has been going on, as you can see here on this post, and this investigation carried by Bobcorn. There was actually Meld funds belonging to Meld partnership funds being distributed across multiple people, including Can and others addresses. And while most of the addresses received the token and didn't sold, there was one address that received a very large chunk of the tokens, 9.8 million tokens, and that was the one responsible for the big sell-off of Meld. These adding on to as well some bot addresses selling the Meld token. Of course, this is even more concerning when we see here this video from Zerberus.
But if you expand the search, and you expand the search significantly, you start here with the minting wallet, and then you can follow this minting wallet. I know it's kind of confusing a second here, but I'll go there for a second. What he did is he took the tokens, or someone took the tokens, I don't say he, someone, I'm sorry, I have no idea, took the tokens and distributed them to thousands of wallets, which then these thousands of wallets distributed and traded amongst themselves thousands of times, thousands upon thousands of times, in the biggest schema of this I've ever seen. Like, for example, if we zoom in here, right, we have one wallet here, and this one wallet, we're gonna zoom back out, sorry, has all these lines, right, all these edges, all these transactions coming up and around to this peak up in here, right, into this wallet. Oh, that's this wallet, sorry, lols. But all these wallets have these lines to each other, right? So this wallet here has lines, has thousands and thousands and thousands of transactions to this other small wallet, who has thousands and thousands and thousands of transactions to this other wallet. Yeah, it's wash trading. It's wash trading to, it can, I don't even know if it's considered wash trading. Sorry, Simon, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, no, I'm just blown away because for the community also, I know didn't tell me the findings that we just jumped right on the live stream. So
this actually, points to the fact that there was a lot of, I guess, what seems to be wash trading or something similar to it, where basically tokens, the same wallet addresses, were trading between themselves to show volume, to show demand for the Meld token. Demand that doesn't seem natural, that seems kind of forged, I would say, looking at the data found by Zerberus. But the reality is, no matter what happens, this is always a very sad day when we see projects failing, and especially when you see a lot of people holding tokens and seeing those tokens go to zero. And we should never, it's always super sad. It's always terrible, I would say. So if you're part of those people who lost funds in Meld, I'm sorry, honestly. And I just want to say, please don't lose your hope. Better times will come, and don't forget about why we are here in crypto, about the revolution we want. Because one thing is the projects, and we need to realize that as investors or token holders, the big majority of the projects will go to zero, they will fail. So if you're investing in a project, you do take that risk. but some will succeed, will have huge success, and you'll be rewarded for it. So just, try to take what lessons you can for your trading journey. Try to learn from these events that I'm sure it's frustrating, but if you do learn and you do put that knowledge into your future investments, they are going to be much better, and you will actually be rewarded with much more financial success. So please don't give up, keep believing in yourself. This is not financial advice, of course, but that's how you learn. It's a painful journey, but I'm sure if you take your time and reflect on this, you'll learn a lot. You might start investing in more secure assets, less speculative assets, and you'll dive deeper, maybe even into the project. Because the reality is that, as we can see here, definitely some other members of the community saw problems in this project, and they did at some point called out some of these problems with Meld, namely with the vision, namely also with the large amount of funds they were able to gather, as you can see here, for example, BigPay. And it's pretty crazy because they got a really, really strong amount of funds. And if someone is saying something about a project, we don't always need to call it FUD. We can just take it as it is. We see what they're saying, we do our own analysis, and we see if it's worth it or not. But the reality is that we need to think that Meld was actually, getting a lot of funds, and they could have done so much with these funds, I feel, and that was not done. Overall, I think this was a mix between poor money management, spending too much, but there was also some shady behavior, as it does feel by this on-chain proof, by this analysis here, and what we've seen. So I hope we can have some kind of due diligence on this problem. I hope that if there's some harm done to people, something illegal, we are able to take whoever done those things to court of law and do justice for the people who lost a lot of money and who are now suffering and being hurt. But I also want to be careful with my words, because I know how it is to have a business. And sometimes, no matter how hard you try and how well you try to do things, you will fail. And we need to also understand that some of the projects in the space won't be rug pulls. It will be hardworking people doing their best, but not being able to succeed. And we need to understand that, because that's what's going to happen to the majority of the projects, I would say. So yeah, we can't just say that everyone is a rug puller, but if there is evidence for sure, we need to pursue that and try to put people in jail, try to do justice, right? But overall, and a last word for Josh from Late Game Crypto. I saw his video where he was showing a little bit the struggles of a creator, but also how it showed how he's struggling and feeling responsible for this Meld situation. And I just wanted to give him some strength and thank him for his awesome contribution, and tell him that he is not the one to blame. He did a lot on education, and he was just trying to support a project he felt had a lot of potential, a vision he would like to see happen. And and just trying to make his channel a little bit more sustainable, because it's true, content creators do put a lot of hours without getting anything in return. So I can't blame them for trying to find a good way to support their channel. And the reality is that if you ever support a project, even if you think it is legit, you're always going into the risk that the project will fail at some point. And that's very hard. It's a very hard part of being in crypto. But for sure, we need to be more comprehensive and more supportive, especially of the people who are in this space with a good heart. Overall, this won't be the first or the last project failing on Cardano. We've had many, and I think this might be the biggest failure on Cardano. And second would be Ardana, and you can learn more about that one in this video.